In the ancient Daoist temples, the jade egg was never spoken of loudly. It was whispered about and passed hand to hand, womb to womb, from elder to initiate. See, this was never a tool for pleasure. It's also not a trend, but a sacred object. They called it the dragon's pearl, something that could mirror your inner universe and reveal your deepest wounds and ultimately transmute your sexual essence into spiritual light. Today, that sacred lineage is nearly lost, and what remains has been dragged through the dust. The jade egg has become a product, a gimmick, a trending hashtag, something to apparently tighten the yoni or impress your partner with. I can't lie when I see what's been done to these sacred teachings. Something in me breaks and gets really frustrated. Something ancient in me grieves because this wasn't meant for performance or tightening. It was always meant for healing, for awakening, for the return of the feminine current to the body and ultimately to the earth. And that's why I cannot give everything here, not on this platform, not just because of community guidelines, which certainly play a big role, but also because some teachings are simply not meant for the masses. These practices were kept veiled, they were kept hidden and cloaked in metaphor for a reason, because when sacred things are revealed to people who do not understand them, they get distorted, they get corrupted, warped, and ultimately used, destroyed. So, if you specifically are someone who feels the ache for the real truth, if you know in your bones that what the world has told you about your body, about pleasure, about your power, especially your sexual power, is incomplete, then hear this. At the end of this month, April, I'll be releasing 2 sacred video teachings on my Patreon, one for women and one for men. And in these videos, I will walk you step by step through the true jade egg practice, not the trending gimmick version you'll find online, but the real one, the hidden one, the one that's not meant for performance, not meant for validation, but ultimately for energetic restoration and healing, for spiritual reclamation. Let's discuss the forgotten purpose of the jade egg. They tell you that the jade egg is for tightening the yoni, that it is some sort of a beauty hack and a seduction tool, a sexual enhancer. But the truth is that that narrative is not only shallow, but it is very violent because ultimately it rips a sacred tool out of its spiritual context and it dresses it in the language of performance and patriarchal approval. The jade egg was never meant for stimulation. It was never meant to please somebody else. It was always meant to bring you home to yourself. This is not a sexual toy. It is a living crystal encoded with energy. It is a mirror placed within the deepest temple of your body, not to excite, but to reveal, not to arouse, but to awaken. In the Daoist tradition, the egg is known as an alchemical activator. It was used by inner temple adepts to awaken the yin channel, that still magnetic current that flows through the pelvic bowl, through the womb, and through the root of the spine. Where the yang burns outward, the yin flows inward. And in that flow, there is rest, there is nourishment, there is a form of still listening. And this is ultimately what the jade egg restores. The ability to hear your body's whispers before they become screams, to sense your boundaries, your softness, your yes and your no, and that holy pause in between, to sit in sacred silence and to finally feel what you've been carrying all these years in your womb, in your bones, and also in your bloodline, to reclaim the parts of you that were silenced, shamed, or severed, to soften into your power without apology, to remember that healing doesn't always need to roar, but sometimes it needs to descend quietly through the breath, to restore the electrical flow of energy through the pelvic gates where trauma may have cut that current, to awaken the memory of the body before the rapture. That is, before shame, before conditioning, before performance, and all of these things played a role. To rebuild trust in yourself as a vessel of wisdom and a keeper of sacred technologies. To return your sensuality to your own hands, not to be given away, but offered in devotion. And this is exactly what's been forgotten, and this is what we are reclaiming through this sacred practice. When used with sacred breath, when paired with energy circulation and stillness, the jade egg becomes more than just a crystal. It becomes a teacher. It teaches you to slow down. It teaches you to feel again. It teaches you to soften without collapsing, to awaken without being watched, and to be sensual without being consumed. This is sensual sovereignty. This is the return of the sacred feminine, not for him, not for her, not for them, but for you. Let's talk about the yin and yang within the human body. In Daoist philosophy, the universe arises from the Tao, that nameless origin, the silent void, the unborn potential of all things. From the Tao comes the two, yin and yang. Now, these are not good and evil, nor are they man and women, but they are dark and light, receptive and expressive, earth and sky. They are not enemies, they are complementary forces spiraling eternally in balance. Yin is often called the feminine principle. It is the darkness before dawn, the womb before birth, and the stillness before motion. Yin is cool, magnetic, moist, inward turning. It governs the moon, the water element, and the deep meridians of the body that flow close to the bones. Yang is called the masculine principle. It is the sunrise, the first breath, the spark of fire that animates form itself. It is hot, electric, dry, and expansive. It governs the sun, which is the fire element, and the outer meridians of the body where activity and movement live. But here's what the world has forgotten. Every person, regardless of gender, contains both yin and yang. A woman's body may express yin more strongly, but her intuition, her life force, and her creative power all depend on her inner yang. A man's body may carry yang as a dominant outward force, but his capacity for emotional truth, his capacity for spiritual vision, and even orgasmic transmutation, all of these depend on his inner yin. And when we ignore this truth, well, that is when imbalance creeps in. A woman disconnected from her yang may feel passive, powerless, or frozen in trauma response. A man who is disconnected from his yin may feel constantly burned out, emotionally repressed, or sexually frustrated, always chasing and never receiving. In both of these cases, the energy stops flowing in its natural spiral, and the microcosmic orbit, the full circuit of inner power, becomes disrupted. The jade egg, or its masculine equivalent, is not a prop, but it is a tuning fork for the yin channel. In traditional Chinese medicine, yin energy flows through the meridians, which travels from the perineum at the front of the body to the tongue. It flows deep inside, through the liver, through the kidneys, and through the womb. It governs the fluids, the blood, and the yin, your essence. To restore yin is to restore inner sanctity. It is to soften without collapse. It is to receive without losing yourself in that process. to become once again a chalice for the divine. This is what true feminine energy is. It is not an aesthetic, but a current. And when a man or a woman reclaims this current, the body becomes a temple where opposites unite. And that is what opens the gateway to spiritual alchemy. Not separation, but sacred reintegration. Kundalini energy is not abstract energy. It's not just spiritual, but it is physiological. It rises through your body, and if your body is locked, if your body is frozen, or if it is in pain, then it simply won't rise at all. Here's what many spiritual teachings often overlook. When trauma happens, whether that trauma is emotional, whether it's physical or sexual, it leaves an imprint in the somatic body. And one of the most important places that this is stored is in the fascia. Fascia is the connective tissue sheath that wraps around every muscle, every bone, and every organ in the body. Fascia holds structure and it also holds shape. Thus, it also holds memory. If you've ever frozen during a traumatic experience or disconnected from your body as a survival response, that frozen state gets embedded literally in the fascia, especially in the pelvic region where trauma is most often buried. So you might be wondering why the pelvis? Because this is our foundation. It houses the root chakra, it houses the reproductive organs, the sacral and the lumbar spine. It's also a highly emotionally charged area, often associated with shame, suppression, violation, or silence. When trauma isn't properly processed, the fascia tightens, it locks down, and it hardens over time. The nervous system itself holds a constant low-grade alert signal. The body simply doesn't feel safe enough to be open enough. And the subtle energy channels, like the governing vessel and the spinal nadis, become blocked or disrupted. And this is where Kundalini, the intelligent life force at the base of your spine, simply meets a closed door. You can do all the breath work you want, and you can visualize all the light spirals that you want. But if your somatic body is still frozen, the serpent won't move, let alone rise at all. Because your body is not just a passive container, it is the gatekeeper of your spiritual current. And this is where the Jade Egg practice becomes so important. Not as a hack, not as a challenge or a method of performance, but as a restorative tool for deep pelvic healing. When used consciously, the egg brings awareness into the areas of the pelvic region that may be numb, tense, or even disconnected. It helps you to breathe into places that were once off limits. It reawakens nerve pathways, it softens constricted fascia, and it reprograms the nervous system to feel safe again. It does not force the Kundalini to rise, but it simply prepares your temple so that when your Kundalini is ready to rise, it can rise with grace and not through shock or with force. Because true awakening is not a violent process, it is integrative. It happens when the body and soul remember that they are one. For those people in a female body, the jade egg is not simply a technique, but it is a yin-based ritual to return to the inner self, to return to the temple where awakening and remembrance live. In Daoist inner alchemy, yin is the receptive current of feminine power. It is not passive and it is not weak. It is the force of gestation, restoration, and intuitive knowing, and it flows through the womb, through the cervix, through the vaginal canal, and the pelvic region. But when trauma, conditioning, or overperformance override the feminine body, then the yin current is disruptive. the womb becomes silent, and the yoni itself becomes numb or either hypercontracted. The breast disconnects from the pelvis, and the body forgets how to receive. This is where the jade egg becomes more than symbolic. It becomes medicine. It is welcomed very slowly, with full consent, with full breath and full awareness into the body and into the yoni. The egg is placed at the entrance of the yoni, not as a task, but as an invitation, and only when the body opens with a full yes does the practice begin. The egg becomes a focal point for breath and attention. It gently presses against the inner tissues that may be holding on to trauma or silence. And through slow pelvic movement, sacred breath, and energetic intention, it reawakens the sensations over time, and it restores the flow of yin energy throughout the body. Remember that you are not doing this practice, you are being with yourself in a way most women were never taught was possible. This work can soften hardened fascia. It can also restore blood flow to areas of numbness. It can also help to release stored emotions through the cervix and the root. It repattern your nervous system to associate slowness with safety, and it re-establish the womb and the yoni as places of power, not of performance. So when you approach this practice with care, the jade egg becomes a teacher of the yin, not by stimulating more intensity, but by deepening the inner spiral of receptivity, presence, and embodiment. And while the full process must be kept sacred and shared only within a protected space, know this: you carry within you a sacred current, a temple and a portal, a remembering, and the jade egg is not what awakens you in the end. You awaken yourself through sacred listening and breath, and through honoring the yin current that lives at the core of your being. For those in a male body, the jade egg practice may seem foreign. You may have been taught that sacred sexual practices are only for women, or that your role is to give and to perform and to act all the time. But the truth is that you also carry yin, and your healing actually depends on reclaiming it. In Daoist tradition, the root gate of the male body, the perineum, the pelvic floor, and the sacred channel through the anus is a direct portal to the inner feminine current. It is yin in form because it is hidden, receptive, inward, and often ignored. And yet, this holds immense potential for healing, release, and also energetic awakening. But modern masculinity is taught to suppress the space, to numb it down, to see it as a taboo, to disconnect from it entirely. And this disconnection itself creates more than just emotional distance, it creates energetic stagnation. The yin channel becomes blocked, pleasure becomes externalized, and the body stops listening, and the root where the light of kundalini rests is closed or at times even completely blocked off. Reclaiming the space is not about eroticism, but it is about restoring access to your most vulnerable, most powerful center. When approached consciously, the male body can also work with an internal energy tool, crafted safely and used with breath, with grounding, and with sacred presence. It is introduced gently and with deep awareness, always tethered for safety. It is held not in performance but in ritual, and once inside it becomes a mirror, just as it does for women. It reveals any tightness or resistance in the fascia. Awakening breath in the lower dantian and sacral bowl. helping to repattern shame or numbness stored within your root chakra, and guiding energy upward through the spine, ultimately activating the microcosmic orbit. This practice is not about sensation, but it is about listening to the parts of you that were silenced long ago. It is about meeting your own masculine with presence and then allowing your inner feminine to soften back into your energy field. And while YouTube's guidelines prevent me from sharing the full process here, know that I've created a sacred private teaching for this on my Patreon, a detailed guide for men to work with the root, with the breast, and with the sacred return of the yin current. Remember that you were never meant to carry it all alone. You were never meant to be cut off from your inner yin and your inner feminine. You were never meant to be cut off from your deepest truth of your body. The masculine path is not less sacred, it is equally necessary. And when a man reclaims his yin, he does not become powerless, he does not become passive. He simply becomes a whole human being. You can begin this practice today, even right now, simply by bringing your presence to your root space. Find a quiet space, sit or lie down within that space, and hold the jade egg or another crystal, if that's the only one that you have, over your womb space if you are a woman, or over your sacrum if you are a man. Then close your eyes and breathe gently into your lower belly. Feel your awareness drop down. Feel it dropping down past your mind, past your heart, and into your root space. Let the egg mirror your internal state. What emotions rise up? What sensations? What story does your body want to tell you? Don't try to fix it. Don't try to achieve anything. Just listen. Listen closely. You might even imagine a gentle green spiral moving through your pelvic region, cool, still, and magnetic. This is the yin current. It is quiet, it is very deep and alive. This is how we begin, not by doing more, but by becoming aware, not by striving upward, but by returning inward. Your body already holds the wisdom. The jade egg simply helps you to hear it again. What I've shared with you now is just the beginning. The jade egg is not a trend, and it is not a technique per se, but a sacred initiation into your own energy, into your own healing, and into your own power. And this transmission is only a doorway because the deeper practices, the breath work, the preparation, the placement, and the energy movement, they belong in a protected space. Not because they are secret, but because they are sacred. At the end of this month, I'll be releasing 2 private videos on my Patreon, one for females and one for males. Each one carefully guiding you through the real practice with reverence, with structure, and with depth. In these videos, you'll learn how to prepare your body and your energy field, how to work with the jade egg safely and intentionally, how to pair it with breath, with movement, and with awareness, and how to restore the yin current that our world has forgotten. If this video stirred something in you, if you felt that ache and that remembering, then I invite you to join me there. You'll find the link to my Patreon, which still is in its infancy, in the description below. Remember that these 2 promised videos will only be released at the end of this month, which is April. And if you are not ready for the full practice yet, then that's okay too. Simply begin where you are. Begin by sitting with your body, breathing with your root and into your root. Return to the stillness. The rest will unfold with time. If this spoke to you, share it, like it, and please leave a comment. I'd love to hear what awakened in you. And above all, walk gently with your power and honor the yin current within you. I'll see you soon. Thank you for watching.